Welcome again to the scaffolding of 67 Arran Street East, where we're just in the very final throes of snagging the really extraordinary transformation that you can see here of our 1750s facade behind the main 1840s building at 80 Norman Quay. And we've been working on this for the past 6 to 8 months or so with our conservation contractors Nolan's Group, and the works have been very kindly sponsored by the Heritage Council's Community Grant Scheme and by the Built Heritage Investment Scheme and the Historic Structures Fund run by Dublin City Council and the Department of Heritage. And we're very grateful particularly for the support of the City Council's conservation section in facilitating these works. And I suppose it's really down here at the end of the facade you can see the amazing transformation that Nolan's and our architect James Kelly of Kelly & Cogan Architects have achieved in bringing the facade back and the red brick back to its mid-18th century appearance. So they've managed to delaminate the pebble dash from the brick, number one. Secondly, to clean the brick which had paint layers from an earlier period. And then to repair the brick. So you can see that most of the arises of the brick had to be reinstated using a coloured mortar. So it's kind of halfway to an Irish wig detail. And then the original joint, which is a ruled flush joint, of which we found evidence way down below, underneath the 1840s Roman cement shop front down below, and there was carbon deposits on it as well. So it was dirty and weathered and hidden behind the 1840s cement. So it was there for a very long time. So it's back where it should be, pointing up the 18th century brick above. And it's really down to the great crew of Gavin and Brendan and his colleagues and their colleagues in Nolan's that we have this really lovely work to look at. And even the window heads, which were collapsing, most of the stretcher bricks had cracks in them that needed to be replaced in order to give structure back to the window heads. And in some cases you can see as well we've tinted the bricks in order to tie the new bricks in to the look of the more mottled handmade 18th century brick alongside. One detail we were conscious to get right as well was maintaining these non-plastered reveals, which again is fairly typical of the mid 18th century. You find it in places like South William Street and Stephen's Green still today, so that the more common feathered or patent reveal hadn't arrived by that stage. So it's a lovely early look which is distinctive to buildings of this period. And then the other standout feature of this level of the facade is the really lovely 6/6 sash windows, which were both conserved and restored by Lamb's Tongue, our joinery contractors. And these are really special windows. These are survivors, because these windows were completely blocked up with breeze blocks since the early 1980s. So it didn't look like anything actually survived on the street. But once Lamb's Tongue removed the breeze block, the original sash frames were still here, embedded behind the brick and behind the breeze block. So they were able to repair those, and then thankfully this sole surviving sash that you're looking at here was clinging on for dear life actually over here in the top up here, but in fact it was a bottom sash that was left rammed up at the top with breeze blocks underneath it. So when we bought the building about 5 or 6 years ago, we carefully demounted it and we bubble wrapped it for future reference. And this was all that we needed to reinstate the original 1750s profiles of the glazing bars, of the stiles, of the sills, and the chunky meeting rails, which is typical of that period. And so what you're looking at this level is 5 precisely reproduced sashes, all of which are hosted in the original frames, and then the sole surviving sash returned to its original rightful position as a bottom sash here in the far left hand or the far right hand window. And interestingly, we kept the original glass in this, of course, as well. You can probably just about make out the cylinder glass, the hand-blown glass in that sash. And then in the upper sashes, because they're chunky and because they're new, we were able to accommodate slim profile double glazing. So we've a combination of double glazing in all of those sashes while maintaining where the original fabric is, the single glazed detail. And there is subtle details. Number one, it's more reflective, there's no question about it, than the lovely dark voids of the single glazing below. And secondly, as well, you notice that the depth of the glazing bars is slightly shallower on the double glazing than it is on the lovely deep profiles of the windows below. So there are subtle differences that you do get with double glazing. Never mind the weight, it doubles the weight of the sashes, always something to bear in mind. And then actually just one other very interesting detail about these windows. The top sashes don't work, and they never did. They were always fixed sashes, so which is fairly common to a lot of windows in the 18th century. So it's only the bottom windows that open, and sure enough you can see these timber wedges here. So usually you get a rebate here, but the timber actually props up the sash above. And we've painted them as well a kind of a stone colour, off-white, which was typical for its specification throughout most of the 18th century. So we're just cleaning the windows, as you can see. Come up and have a look just above, because we've had good progress up here as well. You can see the lovely granite windowsills have been fully stripped of their paint and brought back to their original exposed appearance. And the windows up here this is the attic level now, so it's 3/3 windows. And again, you can see the exposed reveals. And it's up here actually, you can see the very slim profile double glazing, which is really imperceptible, both inside and outside from the street. And again, the quite chunky glazing bars, our meeting rail, which is usually up to half that thickness, but by the time you get to the late 18th century, about 50 years later. Again, the lovely mottled handmade brick, and there's plummy tones, there's some golden tones, and the predominant red tone running throughout it, and so we used the red mortar to match that in. And then down here at the very end is our downpipe, and this was a full plastic downpipe running the whole length of it. So we had a very kind donation of this really handsome cast iron 5-inch pipe which runs the entire depth of the building all the way down, and we've painted it kind of a bitter chocolate colour, kind of typical 1840s misery. Complete with this lovely hopper, which is probably an 1840s hopper, and in fact this was damaged. There was a bite taken out the top of it, so we stitched that back together before we put it up. And then lurking above it is the lovely handiwork of Percy in chronogroofing, who came to the rescue. It's very difficult to get people at the moment to do small jobs like this, and look at that lovely craftsmanship of how he'd stitched in the code 5 lead into the joints, and you can see the pretty tricky detail as well of working around the capstone above. So that's a solid outlet that will last for decades and well beyond. And then the other achievement up at this level was tying the Edwardian parapet. So all of this brick had been replaced in about 1902 or 1911. There was kind of two changes in the building at that time. So you can see that the red brick in these 7 or so courses, plus in the window heads, was all replaced at that time, keeping the 18th century brick in the piers. And when the pebble dash came off, all of that new brick was really screeching at you from the scaffold. So we had a debate about to what degree would we tone it in with the 18th century brick, and in the end we took the right advice of James, where we came to the conclusion that it did need to be tinted in. So Brendan and Nolan's did a lovely job in, as you can see, giving kind of a mottled appearance, more pigment than others on certain bricks, which allows you still to read it. When you stand back, we're confident on the street, you'll still be able to see that intervention, but at the same time it just blends it in more subtly than the pretty stark contrast that we had before. And then even 100 years ago, the capstones were recycled, so these big chunky 1750s capstones were maintained. And up here, you might remember, we had big mounds of bitumen and cement and God knows what else, so that's been stripped off and very nicely repointed on top as well. And yeah, the long-term project is still the reinstatement of the original roof, or to come up with a new solution for the loss of the roof that happened here probably back in the 1960s. So yes, hopefully within the next few days now, fingers crossed, we'll have a brand spanking new old 1750s facade to present back to Arran Street East after so many years lurking under all those layers of alteration. So check in with us again soon for the next update.